it's on, Mom. So we're gonna start talking about like growing up in Blooming Prairie on a farm, and the first question I want to ask is, because it's so different from what I experienced, was what was it like going to a one-room schoolhouse? Can you describe that? Like just going there, and what was it like?
Well, I always walked a mile, and even in the winter. Sometimes, when it was really, really cold, the neighbor hitched up the horses with a wagon, and the Viator kids, there were, three of them, and then they'd stop and pick me up, and we sit in the wagon with a big horsehair blanket over us. And
Cool.
Udi Viator, that was the dad's name, he'd drive us to the school.
Was he Norwegian?
I don't know much.
Okay.
He was a funny guy, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he'd drive you to the school.
But a lot of times I walked, and we walked home. And some of the days were really cold when I walked, because I would wear my dad's sheepskin jacket, coat, and I'd bundle up. My mother would bundle me up, with a cap and hood, and all I could see were left a scarf, just my eyes,
How
And I
old were
walked.
you? You were just a little kid.
Yeah, I was 6, I suppose.
Oh my gosh.
6, 7, 8. I
Wow.
walked a lot. And we always walked home,
Mm-hmm.
unless it was really cold. And of course then too, we didn't have indoor bathrooms in that little one-room school.
Mm.
We had to go outside.
Mm.
Later on, they did install some bathrooms
Mhm.
in the back end of the school. But
So it was just like was it like an outhouse then?
Mhm.
And was it
outhouse,
heated?
one for boy. Oh no, it
No.
wasn't heated.
Ugh.
And I was always dropping my mittens down the hole. I remember that. My mother would get so disgusted because
Ew.
I'd
Did you
come
have
home.
to fish them out then?
No, I think we left them.
Ew. Ew.
I got another pair.
Mm.
And
We
I
should
remember
get-
when we had to go to the bathroom, we'd go to the chalkboard. They had chalkboards on
All the sides.
2 sides,
Oh, two
anyway,
sides.
2 sides. And in the corner,
Mm-hmm.
we'd write our name. And that meant that we were out in the bathroom.
Then you have to erase it when you come
Yes,
back in.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
And one teacher had to manage all this.
One teacher had
How
8
many-
grades.
How many? 8 grades? How many
8 grades.
kids?
Oh, just a few in each
Oh, okay.
each grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still,
hmm
that's still managing all those subjects. So what
And
did
we'd
she do
hear
in the
them.
morning?
Well, they'd come up to the front of the room and recite their classes, so everybody
Okay.
else could hear that too.
Oh, sure.
It was a good thing.
Yeah,
hmm
yeah. Because you probably learned from the older kids too.
Yeah, you'd listen, You'd
Did you
hear
feel
them.
like you were ready for Bethlehem Academy when you went?
Oh, sure. We
Okay.
had to take state boards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did okay on the state boards too. I was 3rd in the county.
So, seriously?
Yes,
Oh, I had no
yeah,
idea.
yeah.
I thought you did well then.
Yeah, we had a big,
Wow. Contest?
no, but we had a graduation kind of
Yeah. Wow.
in Dodge Center. Yeah, that was a surprise. I mean, I didn't know I was,
You didn't know you were smart.
no, I know. No,
We always knew you were smart, Mom.
no, I wasn't.
Uh,
But anyway,
wow. So what kind of subjects? How did she do it throughout the day? Like you had to be there like at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then
I think it started at 9.
okay,
I think classes started at 9.
okay, that
Mhm.
gave you a chance to do
But
like
the teacher had to walk to school,
2. Okay.
And she roomed at one of the farms that was about half a mile from the school.
Okay.
And she had to walk and start the fire.
Okay. Sure.
hmm We had a great big coal, I think it was coal stove,
Oh, okay.
great big round one. And
Yeah.
the top had a place where you could put your lunches. You bring your hot
Oh,
lunch
sure.
and you'd stick it there, and it would be warm then by the time.
So it was like
Noon
a tin can that you had your lunches in.
Yeah, something that would keep, that you could warm up.
Nice.
And then sometimes the teacher fixed, we had what was called surplus commodities. And they'd bring, I suppose the county did this, would bring it to the schools, and the teacher would fix it. One of them was pea soup, I remember. It wasn't so
It was
good.
dried. It was like a
I suppose you
dry
added
kind of-
water to it. Yeah, I'm sure. It wasn't too good.
camp food.
No.
Ugh.
So she'd fix that sometimes.
Yeah, but this would have been, well, if you were, it was pre-World
Oh, yeah,
War II.
1930,
Yeah,
30,
'cause you were born in 29.
36, 1936
Yeah,
and on.
Okay. And surplus commodities, it just came from the government then? Or- And they brought them to rural communities then? Okay. And
I
just to
suppose the
kids?
county superintendent brought it.
Oh, okay.
And she'd
Sure.
visit these rural schools every once in a while.
Make sure they were up to snuff and that kids were getting the proper nutrition. And there was never a problem on the farms, though, I would think, that kids were...
I never saw a problem. We never had a problem with food
No,
or anything like
or
that. We
clothing.
did have to have stamps
Oh,
to get sugar and I don't know what else. I remember one time I don't know how old I was. I was helping getting groceries in town, and they had extra supply of sugar. So I don't know how much I got. I got a couple great big sacks of sugar. I know my mother was quite surprised. But
She
I
did a
said,
lot of
oh, they had
baking.
this available, you know.
why not? Oh, my gosh. She was probably thrilled.
It was probably one of those times when I had to wait at Martin Nelson's store for my dad.
Oh,
And my dad never made any extra trips. He was very conservative. Never
Okay.
any extra trips to town.
mm-hmm.
So everything had to be done the one time when you went to town, once a week maybe.
Okay.
Lots of times on Sundays. You've got groceries on Sundays.
After you went to church?
Yes, after, absolutely after we went to church.
Yeah.
And so it could have been one of those times, because I would ride in with him and to take my piano lesson. And I walked, of course, from the stores downtown. I had to take my piano lesson
On Sunday then?
across the street from the school. And it was, I
Okay.
suppose, about a 3/4 of a mile walk.
Mm-hmm.
I crossed the park.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs., and I'm trying to remember her name.
It's not Mrs. Olson.
No, not
No.
Mrs. Olson. She came later.
Okay.
Anyway, I'd take my piano lesson, I'd be done, and then I'd
Is it
walk.
Mrs. Becker? She was the
No,
one that used to...
No, this is
okay.
way before.
Okay. Okay.
And I would walk back to the store to meet my dad, and of course he was never ready to go home because he saw so many people to talk
sure.
to.
Oh, gosh.
And he would talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and I'd wait from one foot to the other. Oh my gosh. And then finally we would get home after all of that.
So you actually took your piano lesson on a Sunday then?
No,
No,
this
no.
was on a Saturday. I
Oh,
think it was
Saturday.
on a Saturday,
Okay.
yeah.
So sometimes he came on a Saturday
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get his stuff.
Later
Okay.
years, I think he did it on Sunday, but those early years, it was usually Saturday.
How long were your lessons? Half an hour?
About
Okay.
a half hour.
Okay. And you practiced
Oh, sure, I practiced every day.
every day?
Except when my grandmother died. I remember this. I wasn't to play the piano. Isn't that strange? For quite a while after. You didn't play the piano. You didn't have music in the house after somebody
Oh,
died.
Strange.
hmm
So which grandma was that? Was that Justine?
My mother's mother. She lived with us.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
That was Justine.
No, no,
No, no, no. Oh, no. Justine was on the
That
Baudoin
was-
side. So this
Yeah,
would have
Catherine. Her name was
been
Catherine.
Catherine Fitzgerald.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I never hear about her really.
Mm-hmm.
So
She
much.
lived with us.
Oh, how long did she live with you?
I don't know.
Huh. Was
4 or
she
5
like
years.
grandma? Was she
4 or 5
tiny
years.
like
Yeah,
grandma?
yeah, she was little. Uh-huh.
Was she
Yeah.
a little Irish?
Very Irish.
Irish. Oh,
She looked like my Aunt Nellie. I mean, she wore her hair pulled back in a pug.
really cute.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
She was an Irish mother because
Yeah.
they had a house in town while my mother was still single, and she worked for a certain auto company after she graduated from high school, and they had a little house in town, and my mother and her mother lived together, and then when she got married, then her mother, I think, must have moved out to the farm then with her.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because grandma was the youngest,
Mhm.
right? How many children did she have? How many kids were in grandma's family?
about 6, I think.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And they all lived in the area?
Mm-hmm.
Or, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all farmers?
Perf-
Or
Yes.
Oh, they were?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, the farms at that time, I mean, I can see why, like, the one-room schoolhouse would have been really
Mhm.
important in those rural
Mhm.
areas. You know, just to get the kids there and,
It really was
Yeah.
unique when I think about it
Yeah.
now. We had one little corner of that building was the library, just a little bitty place.
Mhm.
And it had, books all around it. It was just room enough for
Few
for
kids.
one person
Oh, really?
practically.
Wow.
And it was cute. And then there was a cloak hall that you entered when you came in.
Mhm.
That you would hang your coats,
Mhm.
look your cloak.
Your cloak.
And
Well, I remember the cloakroom at St. Joe's.
Do
too.
you?
Yeah, cloak, that was still, that
Yeah,
was used when
okay.
I was little.
Okay. And then our Christmas programs, of course, that was great fun. The front of the room was the stage.
Mhm.
And then she'd string a big string across from one wall to the other and put curtains, so we could pull the curtains. Oh my, that was fun.
So, and did you have a piano or anything?
No, there was
No.
no piano.
So everything was sung just a cappella?
There wasn't very much singing.
No much.
Not too much singing.
So the
Mostly
only-
plays.
Oh,
You
really? Okay.
recited. Oh, you recited
everything.
some stuff from memory. And you had plays, and
What kinds of plays did you have?
oh, I don't know. It was fun. I don't know. I don't remember. Christmas plays,
Okay.
you know.
Kind of pageants,
with-
kind of.
No, not
things?
pageants either.
Oh,
It was
okay.
like a family.
Mhm.
And I don't know. Just a regular Christmas play from a magazine, probably.
Oh, from a magazine,
Uh-huh,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was big lunch afterward. And of course, we didn't have electric lights at that time either. There were lanterns.
Oh, dear.
It was really
Kerosene
fun.
lanterns?
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
They always had cocoa. I remember cocoa with big marshmallows and cake.
Mhm.
And oh my, yeah, that
Oh,
was
that
fun.
sounds like fun.
It was
And you
fun.
got to wear your Sunday best clothes?
Absolutely.
Did you have a uniform?
With my
at school?
long brown stockings. And I was thinking the other day what I used to wear. I'd have a little waist. It was like 2 straps here, and a strap across, and the same thing in the back. And then it is extended down,
Yeah.
to my thighs, and there would be a garter there. Garter in the front of your leg and a garter in the back. And that's what you would attach your long brown stockings to.
Dear.
Yeah, they were nice and warm,
Yeah,
and with
sure.
long underwear underneath
Oh.
that you had to fold over at the ankle.
Oh,
Always long underwear.
dear.
Yeah.
Wow. That was all winter. You probably had to wear that from October
Oh,
through April.
absolutely.
Yeah. Then you could find, once it
Absolutely.
started thawing, then you could get
Yes.
rid of that, couldn't
Yes.
you?
Yes.
But I'm sure there was a modesty thing with kids that you still had to
Mhm.
cover up your legs.
Oh,
You
sure.
couldn't have bare legs.
Oh no. Well, you did in the spring.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I think you did in the
And you wore
spring.
little
yeah.
socks and
Yeah.
stuff with
Yeah.
your shoes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then it got muddy. Those
And I
roads.
remember one time my folks got me this nice winter snowsuit, a blue one. It was really pretty and it was soft and somebody called me, one of the big boys called me a bunny rabbit, and I wouldn't wear it anymore. I
Oh my
just would
gosh.
not wear that
That would kill.
snowsuit.
Brats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
One
funny.
of those big boys that used to chase me home in the spring. He'd find a snake in the
Oh,
in the ditch, pick it up by the tail and chase it. I would run
I would
till
run
I
too.
had such a side ache when I got home. It was just awful,
Oh, that's terrible. They're brats.
terrible.
They're brats. Okay, that's hilarious. Okay, take a sip. We're gonna go on to the next film in a second, Mom.